All right, let's knock out this last video. This would be the fourth video or the last installment of the generational differences in Japan. Old school to new school. We talked about the age group from 22 to a baby, from 22 to 45, 45 to 65, 65 to now 65 to the older generation. Okay, so let's see. 65 to the older generation. In older generation in Japan, 109, 108. That's not unheard of. One of the oldest one of the oldest living population in the world is in Japan. They live longer out here because they eat better. They eat way better than Americans in regards to not that much grease, not that much sugar. They mostly boil their food, so they don't have a lot of grease, in their system, clogging up their their arteries, and they're a lot healthier. This country not requires, but in a way they kind of prevent people from having. I can't say prevent, but they don't let. They really want people to use public transportation, or that means physically walking to the train station and back, and usually walking around or taking bikes. Of course, New York is a little bit, I would say, more in regards to walking, but in the inner cities you have a lot of walking like New York in that kind of sense. But the train system, public transportation is huge in this country, so a lot of walking. A lot of people are active here. Like I said, sports are, could be life here. So this generation is pretty active. This generation was a generation that has seen the good and the bad of Japan. What I mean by that is that they've seen the Japan when they were winning. They've seen Japan when they lost. They also were the ones that rebuilt Japan. Now, when they were winning, they won against Russia. They won against Korea. They won against China. They won against Malaysia, Indonesia. Pretty much all the islands, Pacific Islands. They were even getting into Australia. They were that strong. And this small little island, smaller than California, it has the 8th largest population, or maybe lower than now, in the world, considered a superpower. They were that, just amazing. Smaller than California, but they were taking over really much the South Pacific. So this generation has seen when they were winners. So, of course, they would think that their emperor was a god on earth. Of course, they would think that their country was a special country, that they're meant to be conquerors like the British Empire at that time, which were colonizing everywhere. That's what Japan was doing. They were going to Korea and colonizing, going to China and colonizing, going to Taiwan, colonizing. Korea was their kind of their breadbasket, if you can say in that sense. They get their rice made there. Taiwan was, of course, makers. China, of course, they had more land than Japan. So Japan was using a lot of countries to do certain things that they couldn't do in the country to help supply the country. And so a lot of people were amazed by that at that time. Of course, America didn't like it. America became the big dogs in town after the British Empire, and the British Empire was losing power. And so in this generation, they remember, I believe this generation has seen actually betrayal more than any generation. And what I mean by that is that the British Empire and the Russians, after the Russians lost to Japan, they made a treaty. China also made a treaty. British Empire also made a treaty with Japan. So Japan was so surprised, so confused on how they can go to war with Japan, because they said, we have a treaty. What is the ordinance of a treaty, or what is the purpose of even writing a treaty if you will go to war with us because of America? That doesn't make any sense to us. What was the point of all that? They were so surprised that British actually even went to war with them. So this generation has seen betrayal in that sense when it comes to international, I guess you can say international life or international relationships. But they admit their wrongs and what they had done in the war. Actually, they were so into, this is the difference between this older generation and the new generation, is that they see the emperor in a different light. this older generation, the 65 to older, they saw the emperor as God on earth, rather than the younger generation. They see him just as a noble old man. Just he's a great old man in that sense. The older generation, because of what happened after World War II, just like the Germans, they were going to the emperor was going to be tried as a war criminal. The country was so they didn't want that so much that they allowed America to take over, in a sense. Allowed them to write a constitution, allowed them to have headquarters, pretty much allowed America to take over the country. This is what allowed the emperor to still to not go to trial as a war criminal. Even though, honestly, the emperor in history doesn't really deal with war as much. He's not a warrior. The emperor is not seen as that. The shogun is seen as a warrior. The general, the samurai is really the warrior in the country. So even during the feudal times, the Japanese samurai feudal times, the warriors were just samurais. The emperor was just a person that just was there. Of course, he had power, but he wouldn't use. He wasn't really into the fighting and that kind of stuff. That wasn't his not specialty, but it wasn't what he was about. The emperor was just seen as the head of the country. He wouldn't use the samurais as this weapon as much unless it was needed. And whoever was in power at that time, the emperor would, they would always submit to the emperor. But whoever the shogun, because shoguns changed, wasn't many times, but the shogun showed he was the most dominant over the country in regards to fighting skills, military tactics and that kind of stuff. So he still had to submit to the emperor, and the emperor was like, no big deal. Now you're the shogun, so I'll give you respect as the military power, but of course I'm seen as Godhead, or I'm seen as God on earth. So you have to always submit to me in that sense. So he had no fear. Of course, there was a restoration of the Meiji restoration, where then the emperor became more powerful, or they restore power back to the emperor in regards to he's really the head of the country. Because at feudal time, they were like, well, we're really the strongest, we're shoguns, we actually are fighting when the emperor is not really fighting. So then that was the kind of thing between Japan and that time. But then when Japan was going to when the emperor was going to get tried as a war criminal, the country and the people were so distraught. They didn't really want it at all, because first of all, some of you have never even seen the emperor in person. I mean, never seen the emperor, a picture of him, nothing. He was just considered almost like a god. I've never seen him. But when the American soldier MacArthur, I believe it was, as a statement of power for America, when they conquered Japan, they took a picture with the emperor. He took a picture with the emperor in his plain clothes. Brother Man, the emperor, took it in his formal European clothes, kind of British kind of clothes. People were so, first of all, it pretty much nullified, kind of made it seem like, the emperor is just a man in a sense, but not only is he a man, he's in submission mode. Why is this foreigner wearing informal clothes where our emperor is supposed to be God on earth is wearing formal clothes? I mean, how disrespectful is that to a lot of people in Japan? They were just like, what is happening? I don't believe this is like the most distraught thing that ever happened to us. So brokenhearted. People were brokenhearted. So they didn't want the emperor to be killed in the war crime. So country has seen that. They have seen that devastation. Then America decided to invest in the country, to rebuild the country. So this generation also has seen the rebuilding stage of the country. They pretty much built them from the bottom back up. The third superpower in the world. I mean, from a country that was totally almost destroyed. 2 atomic bombs were dropped on the country. Now think about that. 2 atomic bombs dropped on a country where it's smaller than California, but they still got to the point. Look, they rose that far up. So of course they thought that, I mean that's just amazing. If people can't see the incredibleness of that, it's impossible. This country has been incredibly resilient. Of course, they still have to deal with of naysayers and those kind of other countries. Of course, Korea and China, they still want restitution for what happens in war. And war is, that's war, or that's, getting colonized. I mean, British has not given restitution to a lot of countries that they colonized. Still has not given restitution to some countries, and that's on purpose because they really don't want them to grow. America pretty much did give them back, Japan again a chance to get back to where they were at. But other countries, they still want restitution from Japan, and Japan has built a lot of things. I mean, a lot of investments, ODAs, I believe it was, overseas development assistance, were given to China, given to Korea to build airports, to build, build the countries back up. And still to this day, they still complain and say that, this is, Japan did this and this during war and this, and this. And they'll still complain like that, like brothers and sisters. And that's how we, of course, Americans, we see it. We're like, oh, they're just like kids. It's like brothers, just let them, argue amongst themselves. But the reality is actually China is very aggressive. Now a lot of people are becoming noticing even more how aggressive China really is. They're arming up as much as they're doing. Their population is still growing. The women population is still not as strong as it could be. There's going to be a lot of men in China. They stopped that one baby rule in China. Think about why they had to do that, because their population was still growing. And so now they're arming up. The men are getting more, I guess you can say, more feisty. And that happens in any country. If you have unemployment, you have a poor rate, or unemployment rate, or you have a destitute population, the men will start getting feisty. They want to fight. So there was when I came in Japan, maybe like I said, 8 years I've been here. I think it was 5 years ago, maybe maybe a little bit more, and still to this day, maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, there was a riot in China, and the riot was about Japanese companies in China. Where it's funny because Japanese companies have always been in China, and they've always did this business, around that. But the government in China is so bad to Chinese people that they have to find a scapegoat, and a scapegoat is, of course, outsiders. And who's the closest outsider? Of course, Japan is one, because they're making money there. Korea, I just saw a video of a Korean guy just getting beat up in a car sales, a car lot, where he was going to buy a car. He was getting beat up because of the situation between America and China. And, I think America just put it was a THAAD. What is it? It's supposed to be the military anti-missile machine, or what, I know, missile launcher that, it's supposed to be an anti-missile defense system. I forgot what the acronym means. But China was mad about that America did that, so they attacked Korea. So China is really, they've done it for a long time. They are very aggressive. But when they lost to Japan pretty much put them in check, calmed them down. And of course, Japan how do you calm down a feisty kid? You have to be feisty yourself, or you have to be physical yourself. I'm not giving, of course, Japan a pass on how brutal they got. But in regards to, when it comes to that kind of thing, that's just known. There's no way you can, talk to a person that is very abusive and just talk them down. In a way, you have to be as much as abrasive as them, or as physical as them. Again, I don't give Japan a pass on what they did in the Nanjing and all this stuff that they did during the war of tortures and slaughters and stuff like that. But of course, Japan has gone through a lot of things, and this generation, the younger generation, has not seen that in that way. They've only seen the bad side. They haven't seen the good side of Japan and what they did overseas compared to now. They're always reminded about the bad side. Always reminded of what they did in the war. So they're really, really, like I said about the younger generation, they are not, patriotism is not good for them. Patriotism for Japanese are seen as a negative connotation in Japan. Patriots are not seen as good at all, as being good at all. Flag, love of the flag. To some, it seems as they're being. They put it to another level, like they're being like Nazis. When reality is, no, I just love my flag, I just love my people, I love my land. They can't be seen doing that. They have some, rallies and stuff like that, demonstrations of how much, foreigners are coming here and doing this, which it's kind of it's an oxymoron. It's kind of stupid because the population is declining, and they need foreigners here because the population is declining. No one is making the population decline except for themselves because they're workaholics. And that is, in a way, their fault. Of course, the country is trying to promote more babies to be made, but they've already gotten a mechanism starting that they want more foreigners here to work. So it makes no sense for them to have rallies about, we don't want foreigners here. We have to build ourselves up. We should be patriots, which is right. And some of them, and even when I walk past the rallies and they say, oh, we don't want foreigners here and this kind of stuff, I walk past them and I wave to them and they're like, oh, hey. So they're not really jerks. They're not really that kind of, they're not like seen as the KKK or nothing like that. They're not seen as those kind of terrorist groups. They're just expressing their patriotism, their love for their country. Of course, people should be more prideful in this country. And there's a situation right now, right next to my kid's school. They just built a school. This is a recent news. They just built a school, an elementary school for kids. And the people that started the school was connected to the Prime Minister's wife. And the Prime Minister's wife's kind of like donated or given kind of her approval, kind of that sense right there. And the school is really patriotic. They really, thanks for the country, thanks for the emperor, not hell emperor, but, let's get powerful, let's get strong, let's be a strong country. And once the news got a hold of it, and it's not just because they were that kind of school, because they're a patriotic school, but because when they were opening the school, they didn't really tell all what was going to happen and the teachers and all the paperwork and stuff like that until the school's built. The school is beautiful, nice looking school in this little ghetto area. I mean, there's ghettos all over the world, so this ghetto area, very beautiful school. And so now they can't open a school because of this kind of situation. Oh, no, this school is, hey, you guys didn't fill out the paperwork right. In Japan, it's really all about paperwork. You have to be very on it. They don't play around with it. So they can't open a school because of the paperwork and stuff like that, but also because this school is seen as like they say brainwashing. When in reality it's not brainwashing. They're trying to be more patriotic. Like I said, the connotation for patriotic in Japan is seen as brainwashing, or seen as, oh, you don't like other people, or you racist. When reality is not, they're not racist, but there are some. Don't get me wrong. Japan has that mindset as well. Asians, of course. And reality is racism wrong? That's another story we can talk about. You guys can comment at the below. But is racism wrong? Because racism doesn't, should you not want your race to survive? Shouldn't you not want your race to, be at a good position? Or do you not want your country to, your people or your country or your people that have the same culture or background as you to, upgrade or to stay in around? Is racism wrong thing? Because, racism makes sense. You would want that in a sense, right? You would want to take care of your people that look like you, people that are from your, tribe, or from your clan, or, where you're from. Is that something that black people have not yet understood? I think in a sense, yes, because there's so many of us, and there's so many different types. And there's so many things that we accept, and an American. I'm African American. We have so many mixes in us. We don't know who is who. Of course, melanin skin gives us a huge indication. Oh, you have something in you that's just not, European or just Italian, or you can see. Oh, you have a melanin skin. You have something in you that looks from Africa. Obviously, you have pure skin. Pure blood. So, is racism a wrong thing? And I say no. And me being in this country, I can see the benefit of it. And also when I was working in a bank, I saw the benefit of it, because I was working with Koreans in the banking, and the banking doesn't give money to everyone. Matter of fact, they don't give money to anyone that's not of a certain background. So I met a Korean crew What they would do is say, you know what, we already understood back in the past, and we understand American history, we understand Americans' ways. We make our own money. We have our own banks within us, not a banking institution. We have our banking within our whole in a network of like a neighborhood. So a whole bunch of us get together, a group of us, maybe about 20 of us, maybe more, a little bit, of course more, and we put a stack of money together. And then when someone in the group wants to make a business, we say, okay, we're going to help you. We're going to open this business with you, and we're going to help you make this business succeed. When your business succeeds, you're going to put that money back into the pot, and then it's going to grow the pot. Matter of fact, you put a little bit more extra in the pot, so then the next business that the group wants to think of, they do it. Now, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. This makes sense. That makes total sense. Of course, that makes a lot of sense. Why would people not do that? Of course, especially if the institution is not going to give you money, and also the rate that the banks or the institutions are going to charge you, because even though they're going to give you the money, that's not going to mean they're going to help you with the business to succeed, because they just want the money back. They don't want you. If they succeed, great. But if you don't succeed, I don't care. I want my money back. But having a situation where you have people that are around you that want you to succeed and want the money back, but also not only want that, we want someone else's business to succeed, so we can continually have this network happening. What's wrong with that in America? Why can't brothers do that? Or why can't people of my skin or melanin skin do that in America? What do you think that is? Now, me being overseas, I see the importance of groups. I see the importance of collectivism. I see it. It makes perfect sense. Why is it not happening in America? Why doesn't brothers do all these ballers that got money? They put their money into charities and put their money. I mean, Oprah Winfrey was a huge one I've heard. I don't know how to think about her. I don't know how to think. She makes billions. She's a billionaire. So I'm confused. We have like a certain view of billionaires. Why is groups not made like this? Because they don't trust each other? I don't get why brothers and why they can't do this in America. It's because you don't want them to succeed, or you're too busy, or Jordan. I know Jordan has a little bit of money. He already got a couple of chips. I heard he do, and his shoes still popping. His shoes are the number one shoes in the world. They want them shoes out. Internationally, those shoes are still popping. So what is going on? I don't get it. Why we have to go to the banks? Because I felt sad when people come to the bank and ask for a loan and ask for some line of credit when they look like me, and they had no idea why they don't get it. They were totally confused. They said, well, I need it now. I'm not broke. Well, you have money in the bank, yes, but there's just some things you were supposed to do 5 years ahead. Like, what? I didn't know that. Who was supposed to tell me that? When was I supposed to learn that? Because school didn't tell me about that. School didn't tell me about the mechanisms or the procedures or the things I need to do ahead of time before I really needed the money. Because who's going to buy a $50,000 house? Cash. No one. Even if you're rich, you wouldn't do that because it's pointless. Why would you do that? The market changes so frequently. Why would you buy a house cash money? And that's the mindset that a lot of black people have until they really need the money. And then they say, oh, I can't do that. I need assistance, or I need a business. And this type of I need assistance to buy the material, buy the land, and buy the place. I really want to set it up the right way, and that's what we lack at. Why can't we do that? Is because we don't have that collectivism that I've seen overseas. I've seen in Japan. What I've seen in these people, and I found even Africans come here and do the same thing. They're collective. Africans are doing it. So why is it brothers in America can't do it? Africans come over here and they do the same thing. They say, oh, they ain't gonna give us no money, so we're gonna make our groups. They do it the way they gotta do it. They gotta hustle, whatever, and they do it though. But why is it we American boys can't do that? I seen some people flexing on Instagram. They had chunks on the table, eating like they eating money. Now, how cocky is that? What is that about? What's your money? What's that money for? Because most likely, you having all that money, you ain't gonna put it in the bank. You know you ain't gonna put it in the bank. Because you got to explain where you get that money from. Where you work at? Oh, I ain't got no job. Okay, so what you slanging then? Obviously, they're gonna find out somewhere. So put it in a business. I think Big Mike said that, Atlanta boy. But people don't think that way in America, right? They got them chips because they can't show it. And I mean, man, I'm confused. But anyway, that's off the point. That'll be another conversation, another video. But anyway, I talked about generations in Japan and how they think and what's the difference. Hopefully you guys like it. You guys subscribe. You guys want to hear more, please make comments down at the bottom, and we'll talk about other things, of course, investments, stuff like that, other stuff, clothing, fashion, food, all that other stuff. So then, give me, hit me up. Again, Romeo, Brother Man in Japan, and then, we'll see it. See you when y'all see it, for sure.